What's poppin', everybody? You are now watching Boyz Sports Show. I'm your host, King Ralph, here with my homie and my co-host, the homie Kylar. What's poppin', Brody?
Yo, it's good to see you, man. Good to be here. I'm ready for a great show, and I'm fiending like Joe to see football season. So,
Yeah, I feel you on that. As soon as we met, I've been bringing it up every show almost. As soon as we got Chandler Jones and traded for Devontae Adams, I was like, let's start the football season now.
Right.
But it's almost that time. But before we get the show rolling, make sure you follow us on all our socials. The individual sports page on IG, J.U.K. Sports Show. Make sure you follow us. Our handles are all on the bottom of the screen. My handles are for Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and I always mix up the
TikTok
and TikTok. Yes, TikTok.
Yeah.
I always put that forth. And then the individual page as far as Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you follow, subscribe, like, share, all of that good stuff. The He Say, She Say, all one word channel. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to say yours, and then we're going to start the show.
Right. You can follow me on IG man at the.house.hoops. That's NBA news, highlights, analysis, and all that good stuff.
All right. And let's send a shout out to the sponsors. You want to do any music videos, podcasts, photo shoots, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fitboxer. And it's the disrespect has continued for Lamar. This time we got a anonymous defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I don't have the quote in front of me, but it was the quote from off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. I don't give a sugar honey iced tea if he wins 12 MVPs. He will never be a one as a quarterback.
Yes, that's exactly what he said.
Which I don't get how that works because he's already a one.
Yeah.
I don't. He meant like he's not going to be the best quarterback in the league.
But, it's So I have a quote. He said, if he has to pass to win the game, they ain't winning the game. The coordinator said he's so unique as an athlete, and he's really a good football player. But I don't care if he wins the league MVP 12 times. I don't think he'll ever be a one as a quarterback. He'll be a one as a football player, but not as a quarterback. So here's where, the hate and the disrespect needs to stop. And it sounds like, first of all, okay, it's anonymous. So I want to address the anonymity and all that, whatever you want to call it, right? Put your name behind it. If you feel so confident, right, in your affirmation or whatever you want to call it, or your stance, put your name behind it. Why are you scared? If you pretty much, he's saying tier one, top of the line, the elite of the elite, like the Mahomes, like the Rodgers, like the Bradys, like the Mannings, right? If you feel so confident about that, then put your name and put a face behind it so that Lamar Jackson, because this is toward him, right? He knows who you are when he plays you, next time he plays you. And it sounds like it could also be sour grapes that because he beat him. But the issue that I have with it, Ralph, is one, like you said, he's already won one. And every single time, I feel like people are always trying to move the goalpost with Lamar Jackson. At first, it was he needs to play receiver or he's a running back. He can't throw. He proved he could throw, right? He won the MVP. He can't win from behind. He has multiple wins from behind, right? He can't win a playoff game. He beat the Titans in the playoff game. Now, in his fourth season, he has to win the Super Bowl. Now he's going into his fifth season, But within 4 years of the league, he's the only quarterback we're talking about. Not me and you per se, but the outsiders and stuff like that, and the detractors, that he needs to win the Super Bowl, despite the fact he doesn't have a DeAndre Hopkins, he doesn't have a Stephon Diggs, he doesn't have a Tyreek Hill and requisite weapons like that around him. And so, why is it that whatever Lamar Jackson does is not good enough? He could win the Super Bowl right now, right? And then they'll be like, can he get another one? Just like they told Shaq in the NBA. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, it's like, and I'm not saying of all time and all that kind of stuff, but it's ridiculous because some of that the coded language and things that they use with Lamar, bro, it's crazy. And it just, at the end of the day, for me, I really believe that, this is going to continuously add more fuel to the fire that he already has, being motivated as a quarterback coming into the season. Because I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, Lamar, he's humble, he's nice, he even squash a thing with Bernard Pollard. But don't be fooled. As a Lamar Jackson fan, right? I'll tell you this, he does hear the noise. Even when he said in press conferences in the past, he doesn't care what people say. He just is going to be me. All athletes, the bigger the athlete, you have pride, you have ego, you do care because you do hear things. When they said, he's a running back. One game, I forgot, he had like a crazy pass game. He's like not bad for a running back one year. When the 49ers radio commentator made racial remarks about not being able to see the football and the RPO due to the color of his skin and all that kind of stuff and gloves. He trolled him by wearing white gloves the next game. Remember that? So he does hear. And then after this season, right, when he gets injured and they lose 5 games, he posts, "I'm coming for everything next season" on Twitter. So don't be fooled about the humbleness. I believe he is humbled, but he also hears, and I think he internally registers these things. So I just think that people need to stop it, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm sick of it. I know you're a Raiders fan, and I'm sure you're sick of it. It's just like I don't get it, man. I mean, I get it. Like I get, because I know where some of it's coming from, and some people will never like him. But it's like, come on, Ralph. Let's give my dude a chance. If you don't like him, just say I don't like him and move on. So,
I hate the narrative and I hate the conversation. And this might even be the 3rd week in a row we've been talking about Lamar. So I probably, regardless of
that's what it was like. We can talk about Lamar.
All season starts. I want to do a fantasy draft because I just got hit up for my first fantasy draft. September 3rd. I'm not September. August 3rd.
Ooh.
When I think our first, it's either August 3rd or September 3rd.
Okay, great. So that would be like in a week or so.
Yeah, my first draft that I'm doing. But I do want to have I do want to start to have this conversation because I was talking to one of the homies and I was going back and forth with one of my boys. And like I think the narrative as far as people not wanting to come to Baltimore is, I understand it, but you got to know where you're placing the blame.
Yeah.
Because it's not like we're saying the offense is flawed in a way in which, like, it just doesn't win games at all.
Right.
Like, it's just one of those things that when it comes down to it, if I can game plan for this offense for a week or two to where I'm solely focusing on you and I don't have to worry about
anyone.
The week after who I played before you and all of that stuff, that's where the offense can be broken down, and that's where it's flawed. So we look and we always, well, if the offense was so bad, why did he win an MVP? It's because it fits what he's best at, but it's also one of those things like I was telling somebody the other day, do you think he can play like Russell Wilson? If you just offense and like Seattle's offense that they ran, could you and put him in and he can? I think that too often we look at how great of a runner he is, and we just never think about him throwing the football. But he led the league in touchdowns when he won the MVP. So it's like if he can't throw the football at all, then why is he leading the lead in touchdowns at one point?
And he's not Tebow.
So then when you go and you look at the offense itself, they run the ball 30 to 40 times a game. And they throw the football probably a quarter to maybe 40% of that. So most wide receivers are not trying to come here to be blocking wide receivers.
Facts.
They're supposed to get in the bag that these wide receivers are getting nowadays. Which is like, when they like, all right, well, Hollywood, if that's your boy, why don't you stay? Because I'm trying to get the bag. It is for a business. For y'all, it's a business. For me, I am a business. To quote Jay-Z.
Yeah.
But like, I think that too often they start there'll be two separate conversations, and they bring them together to disparage Lamar, what he's been able to do and what he's able to do. And I think that part is completely unfair.
Yeah, it's definitely unfair, and I'll close with this. There is a benefit of being in this offense, in the ball as a receiver in the Baltimore Ravens offense, and that's on the outside. All you have to do is beat one guy. You will always get one-on-one coverage, so you just need someone who can beat it. And Hollywood Brown, even he himself was able to get 1,000 yards. Lamar's like, I'm gonna get you 1,000 yards receiving. He got 1,000 yards receiving, and he still left. Why? Because this offense, on a week-to-week basis, Lamar was force-feeding him the ball. But in terms of getting plays drawn up and all that kind of stuff, Roman's not doing that. He's not running pass scheming routes and all that kind of stuff. And then once you get to the playoffs, though, right, it's easier because they shorten the field, and they're like, okay, we're going to do this press and we're going to do that kind of stuff. And so the pass scheme, like we've mentioned many times on this show, it's not like that. You know what I'm saying? So you need better pass plays, like Marcus Spears has said. You need to expand the offense. I would love to see Lamar Jackson in even a Kylar Murray, Cliff Kingsbury style offense. So where he has the option to run or pass and also make a quick throw here, spread it out 5 wide receiver sets. He has multiple options. So I'm definitely hoping for success this season, but that's really what it is. I think what it is, like you said, Ralph, at the end of the day, whenever something goes wrong, it's the quarterback because he gets the blame because he's the face of a team. So,
one thing I'll say, although you can kind of contribute it to a couple of different things, every running back they could ever sign tore an ACL at some point in this season, which is the wildest I've ever seen in my life. So, games.
Yeah.
And he only had 20 less pass attempts than his MVP season. So you can either attribute it to injuries and him having to throw the ball more, or maybe Greg Roman's opening up the offense. Hopefully. One can hope.
It's Super Bowl or bust regardless this year, so we'll find out.
For real.
Yeah.
And then you brought up Kylar Murray. So he gets the contract extension. I think he has 2 more years before the extension kicks in.
Yeah.
And one of the stipulations of the contract, which all accounts, I've been following the league for a while. We've been doing this for a year and a half. Longer than that, we've been looking at contracts and having conversations of contracts. I've never seen a stipulation where a quarterback had to go watch film. But to Kyler Murray's, it's his own detriment. You can find interviews where he says, I don't watch a lot of film. I just let the feel of the game come to me. Now, I've talked about how I love watching him throw the football. It just looks like a quick flick, and it's 70 yards down the field. His speed, he's the only quarterback in NFL history within his first 3 seasons have 70 touchdowns and 20 touchdowns running. So I'm happy for him, but what do you think of the forced 4 hours of independent film study?
So half a day, I don't like it because I feel like it's babysitting. I really feel like it's babysitting. I don't like it because, look, I'll put it like this. When you are a business or you're an owner, whatever you want to call it, right? And you buy and I don't like the players, they're human beings. I don't even like to use the word product, but where you're investing in something or someone, right? You want to get a high level return on your investment. However, in football, a team game, it's 53 men make up the roster. The quarterback can elevate the team to the next level. I think Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury, I think he fits seamlessly in Cliff Kingsbury's system. I've seen him multiple times lead a team to victories. I've seen them be him be in an MVP conversation, before DeAndre Hopkins went down. I've seen all these different things, right? So for me, the feel of the game, I'll give you one. My all-time favorite quarterback before Lamar Jackson, Brett Favre, right? Okay, he was the master of improvisation.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to sit up here and say Brett Favre never watched film because I know he did the Gruden for Gruden. He talked about certain things. But how many times did he go away from a Mike McCarthy play or a Mike Holmgren play, excuse me? I said Mike McCarthy, Mike Holmgren play, excuse me. And when he was starting out, right? And he would just improvise and score. And they used to drive him wild and all this other kind of stuff. So some people, Ralph, I really truly believe they just have natural instinct and feel for the game. And if something is working for you, right, you don't want to go away from that. I'm not saying he shouldn't study film, and I think you should get a return on your investment. But if he's not doing anything that's been detrimental to the team's success so far, let him do that, because otherwise you're monitoring someone and saying half of your day, when you actually have all autonomy where you should be doing something or should be able to do something, you shouldn't have to babysit someone. So I actually really don't like it. And quite frankly, another thing is, and I wish I had the stat in front of me because I like to give viewers actual factual information. There was a stat that I saw about Cliff Kingsbury. It was like the second half of each season he's been there or whatever, like their record and all that kind of stuff, and how he starts to nosedive, and you see a recurring trend, right? Cliff Kingsbury
back all the way to college too at Texas Tech.
Yeah, exactly. So he starts off hot, and then there's a downswing, and we can talk about DeAndre Hopkins getting injured. I get that, but the team itself was supposedly talented on both sides of the ball, and then you're struggling in the playoffs. Now, they did go up against a really good Rams defense. I give you that. But how many times, I think me and you were texting or on Messenger and stuff like that, we were talking about how Cliff Kingsbury looked like Ty Lue on the sideline when Luka was giving him the business. Like he was like, oh, what's going on? You could see like almost a sweat rolling down his cheek. Like Cliff Kingsbury looked nervous and shell-shocked. Like he looked like, I've never done this before, because that was his first time in the playoffs. So my thing is, I would be holding the coaching accountable as well.
Yeah.
Right? So, like you said, I think that it's micromanaging, and I actually don't think that Kylar's really done anything wrong. I think that his quote got him misconstrued in this situation. I don't think it's fair, but yeah, I don't like it, man. I really don't like it. And then you give him the money anyway, so I don't like it.
Right. Because I think with me, I think it's a lot of times if it had been one of those things where Cliff Kingsbury didn't have this history of having bad lead, like it goes back. I just watched shout out to Undisputed. It was something that Skip Bayless brought up, because he brought up Kylar's issues since being in the league, and he's like 9-17 in the last half of the season. But it's like the opposite way. He has a below 500 record since being. So then, but he starts off hot and it ends up just complete nosedive by the end of the season. So I think if you take away Cliff Kingsbury and just solely focus on Kyler Murray, I can understand where film study would come into. Because I think if you go back and you watch a Michael Vick like podcast he's on or interview where he talks about his film study habits.
Yeah.
Because it's not the improvisation during the play that is the problem. It's the improvisation before the snap. With Kyler Murray being about 5'8", not even 200 pounds, he needs to be able to see when that blitz is coming, because his offensive line is not that good. So being able to get the ball out of your hand quickly, being able to see where the blitz is coming, run the other direction, is the type of thing where I think that the study, I don't have a problem with it in the sense of it being a suggestion. But when you're putting it into someone's contract, like it kind of, I don't like the racial undertone of it.
Yeah. Because
it's always the black quarterback that doesn't watch film.
Right.
Regardless if they're watching film or not. No matter how successful, they're going to go back to, does he watch enough film? What was the thing about Jamarcus Russell? Watching film. But what did Jamarcus Russell say? I never really watched film. And then when I did, my coaches sat down with me to help me understand what it is that I'm watching.
Right.
And there's other people that have said this too. Michael Parsons was on I Am Athlete, and he talked about watching film and not knowing what he's seeing until he sat down with his linebacker coach and defensive coordinator. And then at that point, they were able to tell him, like, this is what you should be looking for. So teach them how to watch film. Not everybody watches film. When you're able, like Kylar Murray is an amazing, spectacular athlete.
He is.
First round for baseball.
Baseball.
He was a top 5 pick in baseball and was a number 1 pick in football.
Right.
So he probably never had to watch film in order to be successful. And so I think that it's one of those things you got to start to teach people habits instead of trying to make them look bad. And that's like the Jamarcus Russell thing, to bring that into this. I didn't like that because it went to show you're not trying to teach him. You just want to make him look bad.
Yeah, or make a fool of himself or something. Or exactly. How do you say?
If you say you want to win football games, that's not how you should go about doing it.
Right.
And so I don't like that aspect. I do think that he should watch film because I think the pre-snap, he would know these types of things when it comes to pre-snap, which would make him take less hits. Now, on top of that, your offensive line is not that good, and I think he holds the ball a little too long. So I think all of that together, protecting your asset, I don't really have a problem with it. But my problem is I've never seen this before. Why?
Ever.
And going into this last season, we didn't have any conversations about Kyler Murray being a bust. So you still gave him this contract, and then you're making to where you're putting it where he got to watch film. Like, why him?
Yeah, that's weird, man. And you know what? I think it's because the scrubbing things from IG, the Cardinal stuff, the comments, like people always like it was weird, like the whole back and forth between Kyler Murray and like the front office of the Cardinals, you know what I'm saying? And so it was almost like, well, we'll show you. Like we have the upper hand. You have to do this or else.
It is. I mean, I don't like it at all.
Kind of petty to me.
It is very petty. I don't want to keep seeing this. Like, let's just say when Lamar goes up for his deal, if that's in his deal, I don't like it.
Oh, if that's in his deal, go to Miami. You better go to Miami. Replace Tua.
Right. And so, yeah, that's some trash for me. I'm trying to think about, so where we at right now? So we had 23 minutes. I got 2. You know what? We're going to go through our regular topics and then hit the quick hitters.
All right.
So the women's team, USA team,
Jamaica. My bad.
Jamaica in the 4x4 relay at the World Championships. I'm not gonna sit here and cap. We talk about them ladies from Jamaica,
Shelly Ann Frazier,
and we've had conversations as far as the beauty of these women, but we've also had this conversation about this skill set.
Right.
And this skill set was crazy. We've had opportunities and just came up short before when it comes to USA versus Jamaica. But them being able to come up with this upset, wasn't Allison Felix in that?
This one for the 4x1?
Yeah.
They signed him in the 4x1. No, it was I actually had the girls' names as I rewatched the race too. I'm on the article apparently. It's Melissa Jefferson, Abby Steiner, Jenna Pradini, and Twanisha Terry combined to upset Jamaica in the final of the women's 4x100 relay at the Track and Field World Championships.
Yeah, man. Yeah. They did, shout out to them. I definitely didn't see this coming or see this happening.
Yeah.
Because them Jamaican girls is just they just run different, bro.
Yeah, the whole country runs different. We can say that. You know what I'm saying? From a little, from a seed to straight up. And this is great. Because obviously that's the topic. This is really huge because there was a level of domination for USA over that weekend, and I was trying to see if I could actually get the time. That's why I was looking. Okay, it's 41-14. Yeah, 41-14. That's fast. For them to be able to do that, this is monumental because this is a rivalry. This is a rivalry. Whether people, I don't even want to say whether you like it or not. It's just a rivalry. It's one of the greatest sports rivalries in terms of individuals. Race, individuality, persons, and then when you get a team together, it's also something really cool. So for us to upset Jamaica, then you had old girl Sydney McLaughlin, who ran track at University of Kentucky. That's where I first found out about her. She wound up winning the 400 meters in the hurdles, right, breaking the world record, and that's huge because she was breaking every other record. Oh no, excuse me, in the 400 flat, she was breaking everything in the 400 hurdles, and then she's like, her coach was like, if she sets the record for this, then in the next 2 weeks she's going to run the 400 meter flat, just flat, and she broke that. So for the females, which I feel like we need to give more light to, for them to be able to dominate for our USA track and field team, that bodes well for when the Olympics come up and we go overseas and stuff like that. Because we also have to remember, Ralph, Team USA, mainly actually the men's, they put on a poor showing last time around. So we want to have something as a country that we can cheer for. I started running track when I was in 4th grade for Columbia Express back in Maryland. I ran track all the way through my sophomore year of high school. Then I moved out here at West to a charter school where they didn't have a track team, which is crazy. They did not have a track team. So I didn't run track my last 2 years, and I actually still got a scholarship offered at Western Kentucky, but that's another story. Not about me. But I know. I was like, and I turned good money down. But I bring that up because I'm huge on track. That's one of my other favorite sports, football, track, and basketball, obviously. So it's cool, man. Because whenever you beat Jamaica,
I think with that, it's one of those things where like I think
go ahead, yeah.
We really enjoy like athleticism, supreme athleticism. Mm-hmm. So when you go out there, the most exciting track sports, they're not the long distance ones. It's the 100 meter, it's the 200, the 400.
I love that too.
That too. The 2 is the one though.
That curve.
Yeah. I think that with that's why it just shows like who is the fastest person on this track, right? Who has the most endurance, who can put those two together. And so I think that's why, like, even like I was too lazy for track. Like for me, what are we running for?
Yeah, but you can appreciate it though. You can appreciate the people who do it.
But I enjoy watching it.
Yes.
Because I tried it once. I went to one practice. It was like, I'm cool.
You ain't in that hot sun running that 400.
Especially being out here in Vegas, like, and running out on that track. Nah, son.
Get out the tar. He told me Silverado practices was wild, bro.
Bro, like, I went to one. It was like, I'm straight. Cool. I'm going to go to Taco.
They make you run all the time because like me and him used to talk, right? And maybe he told you this, but I know when I was in high school, we did something called a ladder. So let's say you're training for the 400, but you don't just run the 400 every practice. They make you run a 600, which is a 500 meters, and then you sprint the last 100, line back up, run a 400. Run a 300, sprint the last 100. And then you go down the ladder, then back up the ladder. But go ahead.
It's like for me, bro, like I have an appreciation for them because I couldn't do it. And so for you to do it at where you're the greatest in your country and then they put you up as like the greatest in the world. Because like they call the NBA championship a world championship, but you're not playing against the world.
Right.
Although the NBA is considered the best league in the world. So I guess maybe you can look at it from that aspect, but you're still not playing against the best in the world because we all have that conversation about people we've seen in our neighborhood who never made it to the league.
Facts.
And even like shout out to Knuckleheads. They bring that up all the time about we've all seen people in our neighborhood that were better than us They just didn't have the right situation to get them to the league. So
Period.
I think that being at that level and getting and showing and proving that you're one of the top fastest athletes of all time, if not the world, is exciting. I actually was really surprised while reading the article that the men's team, although they lost, it was an upset when they lost because they were favored.
Yeah.
So, and it was like it was an issue with the baton, like passing the baton. They had an issue where they dropped it or something like that, or like it just was like it wasn't a clean handoff. So I'm actually really much. I'm gonna start paying more attention to this. I'm gonna start looking.
It's fun, man.
When these next events come up, so I can see what's happening and keep a better eye on it. Because I just definitely thought, like when I seen it, I was like, "Oh, World Championships, we lost."
Yeah. Well, something like you also have like the spring when the pin relays, they show up on ESPN, so that's always fun as well. And that's something. So yeah, that's definitely something that you should watch. Because I've been to the pin relays when I was younger. And it's like really, really cool, bro. Except when it rains. When it rains, it's cold, and you're there in the little shorts. But yeah, watch it, man. You'll enjoy it. Yeah.
But on to the next one, my man, J.R. Swish, J.R. Smith, Henny King, even though he don't drink Hennessy.
Right.
Which is funny. I was actually on Twitter the other day, and somebody had said something about him, and I was just like, but he don't even drink Henny.
When I think of Henny, I think of Pac, and I think of Nas.
He himself said he does not drink Hennessy. He's the Henny guy.
Yeah.
But J.R. Smith was on the No Chill Guild podcast, and he
the title of this topic.
No chill at all. But he brings up Dame and Bradley Beal staying in situations where do you I was like, I'm gonna attack this from two different ways.
Yeah.
One, Dame rotting away. But two, do you take, because me and you bring this up about generational wealth all the time. Are you giving up $60 million to go to a team where you can win, or are you going to take $250 million versus $190 million, which that's a significant gap in itself. $60 million is money by itself, but the fact that you're adding $60 million to make it a $250 million, where in the NBA you're going to continue to keep getting paid.
Right.
Even if they cut ties with you. So do you rot away like Dame? Or do you want out?
So to answer the question, or kind of both questions, I would say it first and foremost as a player, it comes down to what is your priority. And I mentioned this before, and I'm not trying to take shots at Dame, but me and you, we talked about this, and because I think people forget because they get so caught up within the course of a season or a sport that not every single player cares about winning a championship. I'm not necessarily saying that he doesn't, but I'm saying that literally you get to the NBA. Not everyone works super hard to get to the NBA, and they're like, oh yeah, I want to be MJ, I want to be Kobe, I want to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, nah, man, it's hard enough just to get to the league, man. You know, it's like being a rapper. You work so hard to get there, and then to stay on top, you got to work even harder. You ever hear that saying? So, and you just hope that the superstar player on your roster isn't that person that doesn't care about not winning a championship, or cares about winning a championship. You don't want someone who doesn't, like, you know. But anyway, so I want to mention that because that goes into the mindset of the money. When I look at the money, I kind of think of it like this. Yes, it's a generational wealth thing, and yes, there's a championship thing, but I feel like with Dame, it also kind of proves that loyalty has a price. So maybe you pay someone enough. Yeah, they'll definitely be loyal if you continue to pay me. You feel what I'm saying? Not saying you're not a loyal dude. I'm just saying maybe there's another athlete you could say that based off Dame's situation, they might perceive it as loyalty has a price. If I pay you $60 million a year, yeah, you're going to stay because I can actually buy your loyalty.
Right.
You feel me? So that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is what you said, generational wealth. It could just be a simple thing of generational wealth, and I'm going to get this money, and I want to get as much money, get it from the owners, so my kids, as Outkast and Big Boy would say, can have that bread. You know, I had to put that hip-hop reference in there. And then the other one is a championship. I know, like he told, I think he Shannon said that he spoke to Dame and talked about championships are not guaranteed. And I've always said championships are not guaranteed. If you don't believe me, right, I thought the LA Clippers, right, and the Brooklyn Nets in 2021 were on a collision course to play, and the Nets were going to beat the Clippers in 5 games, but Kawhi got assassinated by Joe Ingles. And I fainted on my living room floor. So, I mean, it just goes to show you, right? I thought the Bucks were going to win last year. Chris Middleton tore his MCL or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So championships are not guaranteed. Me, if you pay me enough money, me personally, I'm going with the generational wealth. Why? Because wealth is power. Money in societies, we live in a capitalistic society. The more money you have, the more power you have, the more options you have to do things, and it can set you up longer. So for me, I think that I'm going for the generational wealth, and I want to end it with this, and I'll swing it over to you, and you can take on over, bro. We talked about Dame and Kobe, I think, at one point. I always use this thing. I tell my friends, I'm like, don't be so critical on Dame because Kobe's situation was different. Kobe still played for the Lakers, and that's my guy. He wanted out because he didn't have enough help. But then they went and got a Pau Gasol, right? They were able to trade and all that kind of stuff. But if you're not willing or able to get pieces or to get players that want to come to Portland, then I can't even say it's his fault for riding away. And I'm not dissing the city of Portland, but how many people really want to go there?
Right.
But that's all. So I think he's kind of in a messed up situation, and so then he puts it on the front office. But if the front office isn't doing their job, then it just is what it is, man. So it's not really his control, I don't think.
I don't think he's literally rotting away because
you know what I'm saying. Go ahead.
Like Bradley Beal, on the other hand.
Oh yeah.
Like, we've seen him on the bench look stressed.
DC's a nice place, though, Northern DC.
The best part, when you watch the clip, you see his stats, and then you see how much they're losing by. And it's just, you can just see the stress in this man's face.
Right.
So, like, I do think they're very different situations to where, at least with Portland, they've been competitive. When was the last time the Wizards were competitive?
That's good because even when they got Russ, they made the first round and got.
Yeah. And so I think that even when they had him and John Wall, were they really competitive?
Second round exits. They always needed something else.
Yeah. And then with Dame and Portland, you never really had even. Like going into those games against the Warriors.
Yeah.
Yes, the Warriors were that team and all of that, but you never really looked at the Blazers like,
that's right.
Watch.
Yeah.
And there's points in the game. It's like y'all have a chance, but they just didn't seize the opportunity. Mm-hmm. It was more about the star players not coming up and fulfilling that destiny, rather than it was like the team itself is just not ready, or the team itself needs more. Because what was it? They lost to them, and KD was out.
Yep, they really lost him with KD, and that's why people kind of look at Dame with his. I don't, but people look at him with a side eye, like, oh, but I mean, the Warriors have a really good system,
right?
And without KD, you could also say that ball moved really good without KD still.
Right.
So even better.
And so for me, man, I don't think Dame in particular is rotting away because I think about this. People like me and you that actually watch the game, are historians of the game, will bring up the people that we know didn't win championships. Yeah. We talk about the Sidney Moncriefs. We talk about the Patrick Ewings. We talk about the Charles Barkleys, the Sean Kemps. Like, we give credit to those people, although they weren't able to win championships. And so I think as far as Dame, generational wealth, he's going to have his number retired when he's gone. Universally will be known as the greatest Blazer of all time.
Over Bill Walton. Let people know that.
Brandon Roy and LaMarcus Aldridge. like better than all of them.
Yep.
And so I do think that like his legacy will be intact because he stayed loyal to the soil. He got his bread. He gave it everything he had. You never looked at Dame and was like, he out there just hot dogging. He has those moments, waving him off the court, sending the Rockets home too. So it's not always about winning championships because you can leave. Like we can go back through history and think of championships. How many championships did LeBron and them promise that they were going to win? We just knew when they got Karl Malone and Gary Payton that they was going to win.
Mm-hmm.
The Clippers, the Nets, like even
the Nets everywhere.
Miami was first in the East. They in, and it showed that they didn't have enough.
Oh, there's other teams that have been good that didn't win.
Right.
The D'Antoni Suns, the Rockets.
Yep.
Pretty much any team D'Antoni ever coached. Anyway.
So that Suns team where Steve Nash got checked into the board, that was their best opportunity. Because people don't bring this up, but Amari, he was cooking Tim Duncan.
He had 40 on him.
Yeah. Tim.
That's why I'm like,
Tim was out there getting cooked. Like, we always think about Amari as, like, this freak athlete.
He was cooking him.
But he was getting buckets.
Right. And Tim ain't the best of that generation, people. Stop trying to revise history. Because Amari gave him that 40-piece. Go ahead.
I think that, like, when you think about the totality of a career and the impact and legacy, you got to think about it as more than just championships.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing I hate about the whole championship conversation. But if we're gonna bring that up, like for me, when I start comparing people versus people, and that's just where we had that conversation as far as the top 75. I'm only using championships as a plus one or the cherry on top.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna look at other things like both sides of the ball, your impact on the court, your impact on your teammates. Did it contribute to winning? And then on top of that, who did you have there? And did y'all win?
Right.
Because a lot of people will look at like championships and be like, yo, they don't think about the impact you had on winning. They just throw the fact that y'all won on there. And then it's like, well, did you get the finals MVP? Were you a major contributor? Were they winning in spite of you?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think, to go back to the question, I'm not saying Dame is rotting away. Now, Bradley Beal, on the other hand, the Wizards have shown me nothing that would let me know they're going to be winning.
Wizards will never win.
Coach is right now.
Oh, it's Wes Unseld Jr., Wes Unseld's son. But I mean, yeah.
I hope the best for him.
Me too, but that's all I can do is hope the best for him. But
because I believe in Chauncey Billups being a good coach, but they also have shown me that they have talent there.
Right.
Anthony Simons is a hooper along with Dame. I'm trying to remember who they just picked up in the draft. I actually like their draft pick too. Yeah,
they had a good draft pick. They still got Nurkic there. They got some pieces on that team.
They got some pieces to where there's something for Chauncey there.
Yeah. The Wizards make lateral moves every year, like getting Montrezl.
Like they be hustling backwards, bro.
Right, every year. I'm like, why do you sign people that you re-signed? I don't get it.
Right. On to the next.
All right, yeah.
Our quick hitters until the show is over.
All
right. So we got deal or no deal. Jaylen Brown has been brought up in trade talks with the Brooklyn Nets. I understand his frustration.
Yeah.
But if you're able to keep a Robert Williams, keep a Jason Tatum, you just brought in Brogdon and Gallinari,
Mm.
Are you willing to give up Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart and some draft picks for a KD?
So you want my honest answer because I always keep honest on here. So honestly, I'm not actually going to play this side because this is how I truly feel. I actually don't. I actually want to do the deal, not because for me, not because KD's not amazing. There's nothing to do with that. But I actually believe that the Boston Celtics, they were literally a playmaker away in terms of fixing their ills and their issues. And I believe in getting Malcolm Brogdon. They really addressed it like we talked about on our show. They got a playmaker. They got a guy who fits seamlessly with Udoka's defensive philosophy, and he can hit the three effectively and efficiently and moves the ball off of Marcus Smart and Jason Tatum. And so now all he has to do is focusing on his scoring. Then you have the chemistry aspect of it, Ralph, where you have chemistry and continuity within that team over the course of 5 or 4 seasons that Jaylen and Jason have been together. And you can't really you don't want to mess with that, right? And then they're constantly improving their games. And then you look at, from the last point of it, you look at their adversary in the East would be the Bucks. But like I said on the last show, the Bucks are old. You have a Wes Matthews 35, George Hill 36. Don't know why he's on the team. Ibaka 32. Don't know why he's on the team. Lopez 34. Holiday's 32. They have a lot of age. They signed Joe Ingles, 34, coming off an torn ACL. Where if you go to like Basketball Reference, you go down the list of the Boston Celtics roster, literally every single player except Al Horford and Malcolm Brogdon are under 25. That's insane. So like for me, I'm looking at, if you get KD, yes, you get a great player now. You do get a good player. So I understand people who are for it. I'm not knocking it. You could get it. I'm not even saying it's horrible. I'm just saying I want to do it. You get KD though, he does have a little bit of injury risk in the recent years, obviously. Even coming back from Achilles. And then Brogdon, who I just talked highly of, also has an injury risk. So I feel like actually you put those two players together, I think your injury risk heightens up a little bit and the chemistry gets a little messed up. But I do believe KD ultimately, as the course of the season would go on, would work. Because I think Marcus Smart is overrated as a defender. Steph Curry pretty much did what he wanted to against Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart flops a lot. So for me personally, I wouldn't do the deal because I think in the long run, the Celtics don't mess up what you have. But if it happens, I get it. I just think they would be, and I want your opinion on this, I believe they would be trading away the wrong player whose name starts with a J. They should be playing with the more inconsistent one, and that's Jason Tatum. If I'm the Celtics, that is. Right. So what do you think? Maybe you the other way, or?
For me, man, I wouldn't make that deal either. First off, anybody that's ever had a conversation with me about those two, they know which one I like.
Yeah.
So as nice as I think naturally gifted as Jason Tatum is, I do think he is the more naturally gifted player. Yeah. Like not to say that Jason Tatum doesn't work hard, but or work on his game, because obviously they both come in and get better every year.
Right.
But in college, the players that they were in college, going into college, Jaylen Brown was looked at as a highly recruited high school player. He went to Berkeley because of education reasons, not problems, because the man is very intelligent.
Yeah, I was like,
point where he does. Sometimes I feel like people don't look at him the way that they should, because he does have that low-key Byron role where he's too smart to a certain degree, where they question his want to be a great NBA player. The things he does outside of basketball. But I do think that Jaylen Brown, for me, I like his game more. I think he's a better, stronger defender. I think that his ability, when his shot is not falling, to get to the rim, as from a strength thing, because I don't think you ever see Jaylen Brown get pushed around the court, where Jason Tatum, bro, why are you doing a fadeaway three?
He forces shots. That's the difference between him and Jaylen. Yeah.
And so it's you can either attribute it to strength, to not being able to get to where you want to get to on the court, or you could just get it to bad shot selection. But I don't have that problem with Jaylen Brown. So I do think that if I'm the Nets, if I had to pick one of the two, I would rather have Jaylen Brown. So, because then if you partner him with a Ben Simmons, a Jaylen, you got Jaylen Brown, and then a Marcus Smart. I don't think Marcus Smart is a scrub defender. I think he's a high quality defender, but he's just him winning that defensive player of the year thing. I think it could have went to I think it could have been it should have went to Bridges.
Yeah, I remember you said that.
Me personally, I do think that the conversation that we've had as far as how important perimeter defense is, you see that Michael Bridges or Mikal Bridges makes it tough on a plethora of defenders. He's a long quality defender. Where we just saw Marcus Smart get abused.
He really did, though, with all due respect. By a great offensive player, an all-time great, but still, like, bro, you got to lock up something, do something, neutralize something.
Exactly. So at some point, it's like, I don't know, man. Me personally, I'm not doing the deal regardless because I think the addition of Brogdon, and I think the one that doesn't get talked about enough is Gallinari.
Yeah.
Coming on, like Gallinari is a bucket. He's an easy 15.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and possibly depending on what kind of offense you run, he could be a starter.
Yeah,
or who starters are already. He could be a starter if someone is injured. And I don't think that it's you might be losing like that X factor thing, but you would definitely be getting someone that can in a starting role can get you 15 to 20 every night.
Yeah,
and like his ability to shoot, his ability to take you off the dribble, free throw shooting. He's a sneaky playmaker.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a number one pick, although whether or not the conversation of whether or not he should have been. But he still was a hooper at the end of the day. And so then the addition of Brogdon, plus what they already had, I don't think you mess with that. Now, right. I think it's going to have to be some brown noses. It's going to have to be some butt kissing because if Jaylen Brown is upset with the Celtics for it even being a possibility, I would understand where he's coming from.
Right.
But get too much time on this. Deal or no deal? Do you see a reality where Jackson State gets good enough to play Alabama?
Absolutely. I believe that there's a reality because Deion Sanders knows how to talk to families and talk to players directly and to the point where they actually want to play for him and they'll buy into his philosophies. I believe that's the key. Getting people who are on one accord with you, getting playmakers, not just talent, playmakers, guys who can make plays like Travis that he was able to get. When you talk about getting the best prospect at his position and being able to do what he's been able to do, I think that's key. Also, players applaud honesty and they value honesty, right? When you're younger, you value people who are really honest. Everyone values honesty, you would hope, but especially when you're young, you don't want someone to lie to you about your potential and different things like that nature. They want someone who's really going to believe in you. And Deion does that. And even hearing his response, he said, we need to beef up in the middle, get the big boys. He was completely honest. He didn't stutter. He didn't engage in the false. I always use my own word, falsities, even though I'm pretty sure it's in the dictionary. You know what I'm saying? A kind of classic falsities, and tabloid headlines. No, he told him, he's like, no, we're not. But I think in terms of every other position, Deion is building that. And if he can get some guys up front, I think he said give me like about 2 years, a year or two, whatever. I think that's solid. Yeah. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Because then I feel like if you say give me a year, you got a young offensive line and a young defensive line. So where I can build them up in a year.
That's crazy. That's scary, bro.
Or you're looking at one of those things where you're a piece or two away. So you feel like through the transfer portal, I could get better in that aspect. And that's the part for me where it's like, I'm going to kind of do no deal.
Yeah.
But I do like his response because a lot of people think that the difference between Alabama versus a Jackson State is, oh, well, y'all don't have no Devontae Smiths or no Jalen Waddles or no Najee Harrises. And it's like, y'all, you don't know that part. You don't know whether or not, because how many skill position players have to use? Now, when we start talking about the trenches,
that's different.
That I can probably name 3.
Right.
Like the Deacon Jones, the Ed Too Tall Jones, like
Deacon Jones.
Those are the ones that went to like HBCUs, but every other big, most of them come from Power 5s.
Yeah.
So I think with that, I'm gonna say deal for the sake of I would like to see it, and I would like to see them do well. Although I'm not big on moral victories.
Right. Yeah, I understand.
I still would like to see them do well. I would hate for them to get on that platform and then get blown out.
Yeah, and I know. I think Dion understands that. Yeah.
And then one last one before we get up out of here. My man, Big Poppy, pause if needed. David Ortiz. You know what's crazy about David Ortiz?
All right.
For 5 seasons, I thought that man was black.
We all did.
He looked like one of my cousins on the south side of Chicago, bro. Like the way he was getting his hair cut.
Right.
He even had like the line in the cut at one point. Like thought he was a brother. Straight up brother. But
and if you believe Raymond Simone, we're all the human race. But anyway, go ahead.
So, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. If anybody knows his name, Google his name. His name has been brought up in the steroid era a bunch of times. Never was able to be proven whether or not he was ever actually
juicing.
Like it was true or not. It never really stuck. So for me, is it fair or unfair for the criticism that he has gotten as far as this getting into the Hall of Fame? Now, depending on the answer, now we got to talk about a very specific person and whether or not he get into the Hall of Fame.
I feel like, look, man, if you're going to accuse and make allegations and don't have proof and all kinds of stuff, it's one thing. But I think the whole juicing era was the best era of baseball, 98, home run derby, all that, early 2000s, everything. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. But I feel like it's unfair, man, because, like, the GOAT, Mr. Potato Head himself, Barry Bonds, like, I just feel like if Ortiz goes in there, then let Bonds go in there, let the gambler go in there too, Pete Rose, so he can stop whining.
That's the one for me, bro.
That's crazy to me. Pete Rose, like what?
Rose is possibly the greatest hitter of just putting bat on ball.
Facts.
Hitter of all time.
Right, and it was a gambler.
If you can argue that, and still you're holding him back for gambling, he obviously wasn't gambling against himself.
Right.
So, like, I'm just like, bro, that's the thing for me. Pete Rose and Barry Bonds need to be in the Hall of Fame. And we don't got much time, so I'm going to throw my piece in here before we go. But Barry Bonds, if you go back and look at him when he played with the Pirates, he was an athlete who hit for power, hit for average, got RBIs. I think he got an MVP before he went to the Giants. So what he was able to do before he even started juicing, where he noticeably got bigger, is just like that's where you start to see, like, he was a spectacular athlete.
Yeah.
Before all of that. And so being part of the 30-30 club, 30 stolen bases and 30 home runs, like, I think Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey was another person that had an argument, but it's just injuries with him.
Injuries. He always had the back and different things. Yeah, that back.
So it's one of those things that sucks. But I think that Barry Bonds should be in the Hall just strictly off of everything that he was able to do before
Treroid.
Before the Giants. Just look at his career before he played for the Giants.
Facts.
And so that's the thing for me. Plus, I think that one thing people ignore when it comes to steroids, yes, it helps you hit the ball further, but it does not help you hit the ball.
Right.
And we're gonna have to get up out of here with that, guys. Thanks for watching. Shout out to Natty Ice. That's my nickname for her. She don't know it yet, but I appreciate it. We put a lot of time and effort into this. We went slightly over the hour, but thank you all for watching. We out of here.